Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And as another wide receiver inks an extension in the NFL, I think it's now officially time to declare this the summer of the wide receiver, because so many wide receivers not only got paid, but got paid at higher prices than ever before. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
It's been wild to see some of these contracts and all these extensions. It's been an off season like we haven't seen probably ever before. So, let's run it.
Let's do it. Definitely breaking barriers in terms of money all throughout the offseason. And of course, the most recent of which was DK Metcalf, the Seahawks wide receiver and freak of nature, signed a 3-year, $72 million extension. He has a $30 million signing bonus, which is the highest in league history for a wide receiver. And at $24 million, he's tied for sixth as the highest paid wide receiver in average annual value. So there's a lot to unpack. He is only behind Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, and A.J. Brown. Now, the spike in wide receiver money has been absolutely astronomical because entering this offseason, only 3 wide receivers were paid more than $20 million per year. That was DeAndre Hopkins at $27.2 million a year. And then Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper were just barely at or above the $20 million mark. Enter literally everyone else, where there are now 10 receivers.
I blame the Jaguars. I blame Christian Kirk. I
Of
swear that
course.
started all
Of
of this.
course.
That first deal just inflated everything in terms of what these wide receivers expected when Christian Kirk got signed for $18 million a year for the Jacksonville Jaguars for being like a wide receiver 3 on the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, that was definitely
That
insane.
is what broke the camel's back on there, and everything has
And
just
I
spilled
knew you
out
were going to
since
say
then.
something about that. I knew you were going to mention that because people obviously point to Christian Kirk as the easy, hey, since he's making that much money, how much am I going to make? And it's certainly a reason
We
because
saw
you
this happen in the NBA with the trades. It's like, okay, if you establish a certain value for a certain level of player, now everybody who's deemed better than that player, their values have exponentially increased as well. And we've seen these with all these contract extensions. But also in general, you will see this happen more and more on certain years where a lot of top wide receivers are, or top of almost any position, are up for contract extensions. We saw this with the quarterbacks over the past 5 or so years that we've talked about. Year in and year out, we are going to continue to break records of highest extension, highest $1 million per year for each one of these players that are playing at the highest level, just because the nature of the inflation of the market and contracts and all of that. So, I mean, it's going to continue happening, but this summer has been a real like slap in the face in terms of just how many of these massive contracts have been signed.
yeah, 10 receivers signed for $20 million or more per year this offseason. And 4 of those receivers joined DeAndre Hopkins in making $25 million a year or more. So, and even Tyreek Hill broke the $30 million a year barrier. So, and like when you look among those names, you see some of the NFL's best: Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin. Like there's a ton of them that have just gotten astronomical deals. Like even Mike Williams and Hunter Renfrow got a cut. Like Mike Williams got paid $20 million a year, and Hunter Renfrow, for what he did last year, $16 million for the next 2 years. So
Mike Williams got paid for what he did in like the first half of the year, just
mhm.
so the massive tear that he went. He's getting paid based off of potential rather than overall productivity. But I mean, here's the thing: a lot of these guys, they're getting paid this big money because of the effect they have on their team. And all of these guys, if you look down these lists, if you lose these guys, you're losing a massive part of your offense. So they try to lock them up and pay them substantially to try to keep them, helping them rather than hurting them. And I think you'll see more of this with a lot of the other players that are continuing to look for and or hold out for extensions of their own.
And when you look at team building and how teams are built right now, those championship contending teams, first thing they try to do is lock down their quarterback. But as the league is becoming more pass friendly, quarterback centric, the next thing to do is, all right, who's he going to
Get your
throw the
star
ball to?
receiver.
Who's your star receiver? And in some cases, that may mean trading for one in the cases of Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. In other cases, that may mean extending the one that you already have, meaning Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. But either way, that's becoming the championship blueprint, where it used to be where the left tackle, your elite left tackle, was the second highest paid position on the team. Now it's sort of
Not so
becoming the wide
much.
receiver
Yeah.
as the game changes and evolves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, offense has such a huge effect on the way the game is played nowadays. And we found some teams, if you look at the success of, for instance, the Bengals last season, boy, did they sure not have much at the offensive line, but they still managed to drag their
They made
way
it work.
to a Super Bowl just based on their offensive prowess, both running the ball, but specifically passing the ball with those receivers and what they were able to do to establish that connection with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That is a very valuable combo that other teams are like, okay, maybe we can sacrifice at some other positions and not sign nearly as many talented other guys like offensive line to go and lock down those true star players that are going to be able to that are going to put out those quantifiable numbers like your receiving yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, stuff like that.
Let's take a look at who's due for an extension next, because we have some very high profile wide receivers that are due.
Debo.
Debo has,
Everyone's been waiting on that one,
everybody has been waiting. He's been
including Debo.
yeah, all off season, and
Yeah.
now that they have like a market price, your draft classmates, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin,
It's
cetera,
becoming
et
a lot
cetera.
clearer. The magnifying glass is sort of honing in on around what type of value he is truly going to be worth. It's just a matter of, okay, will the 49ers actually go and, do what they need to do to get that extension?
I'm
Uh,
going to make a prediction
to
here
him.
and say that he gets more than $25 million a year and becomes the highest paid in that draft class, just because of what he can do in the receiving
It's
end
the
and in the
versatility.
rushing end. It
It's
is
the
the versatility.
versatility,
It's
and of course, it's definitely murky in terms of his future of how much they're going to want to continue to do that just for the general wear and tear, because having a guy play both receiver and running back can definitely be tougher on your body. You see a lot of running backs get those bang up injuries, especially when you're not the most physically built strong dude. But he is an extremely valuable asset, and I would say that the 49ers would be idiotic to let that go, especially with the way that that offense works, utilizing so much of the unique aspects of the run game, complemented by a guy who's so electric in the past, where you don't necessarily need to send him on anything crazy downfield. Just get the ball in his hands and let him do the work. He's that type of player. So he absolutely is deserving of whatever money comes his way. It's just a matter of when and what that money is going to be when they make that decision.
Yeah, and Deontay Johnson is another guy that's currently holding out at Steelers camp that is waiting for his extension. He's another member of that draft class with Brown, Metcalf, McLaurin, and Samuel. But then it makes you think, like, these guys are getting paid that much. Imagine how much Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are going to make when it's their time to get an extension, because Justin Jefferson is breaking records for rookie and first two seasons, and then Jamar Chase is right behind him smashing those records. So I definitely think they're going to be earning some money records come that time.
Oh,
But
without a doubt.
yeah, Justin Jefferson getting paid more than Kirk Cousins? Question mark. Vikings Nation, want to tap in on that one?
I mean, if they did, I wouldn't blame him. You talk about such a valuable asset to that offense, and the numbers that he's been able to put up, even with, obviously he hasn't been nearly the force that he was a couple of years ago, but even with having a guy like Adam Thielen as your number two, taking a good amount of targets and catches and touchdowns, the numbers that he has still been able to put up. And you talk about with a running back like Dalvin Cook in the backfield, Justin Jefferson gets his, as does Jamar Chase, as we saw last year. It's a matter of, okay, can he replicate that year in and year out? With a lot, you see sometimes with rookie campaigns, guys have a little bit of a breakout when they're new and fresh, and you got to try to figure them out. Okay, can teams figure out Jamar Chase? But if not, he's on track to be pushing 30 million a year, most likely,
Yeah.
like the type of numbers he was putting up last year.
Yeah, and what about if a guy like CeeDee Lamb breaks out even more than he
Yeah.
already has, because now he's the sole target in Dallas? Nevertheless,
There will always be those guys that continue to climb up the pecking order as they get into the NFL and establish themselves as top positions.
yeah, the money that has come in this summer for wide receivers and this offseason in general definitely has changed the market forever. And it's very fair to call this the summer of the wide receiver. So, Tim, we got anything else before we wrap it up?
I mean, it's been a crazy off season. I mean, we still got a little bit to go here and some things to wrap up before the preseason and then the regular season starts. But it's been one hell of an off season. I think we're set to have a very interesting beginning to the NFL season, and I can't wait. We're gonna be all over it. We've got some stuff planned for heading into the NFL season, as soon as that starts. We'll be starting some of our traditional NFL content as well as fantasy football content. So we're really excited to get on all of that when the time comes. But until then, is we just got to see what else is cooking in the NFL in the offseason.
Tim, like always, says way too much, and I need to say absolutely nothing. Like he said, we have a ton of
That's
NFL
what you got me
content
here for.
planned. Yep. And we'll be covering baseball, and college football is going to get rolling in this next month or so. And then college basketball season is going to be around. So it's going to be a lot for us. We're going to be very, very busy, and we can't wait to bring it all. So if you like what we do, go check out some of our other stuff on the channel. But until then, like and subscribe for more Running the Table content, and we out.